Thank you so much for watching Landumc Goes There. Please subscribe and hit the like button and the bell notification button. Almost 5 decades have passed since Steven Spielberg's Jaws revolutionized the summer blockbuster genre. This American 1975 thriller film was based on a 1974 novel by Peter Benchley. The movie stars Roy Scheider as Police Chief Martin Brody, who asked the help from a marine biologist played by Richard Dreyfuss and a professional shark hunter played by Robert Shaw to hunt down a man-eating great white shark that attacks beachgoers at their summer resort town. Supporting characters include Murray Hamilton, who plays the mayor, and Lorraine Gary, who plays Brody's wife. The original screenplay is credited to Benchley, who wrote the first drafts of it. And then they brought in actor-writer Carl Gottlieb, who wrote the additional parts of the script during principal photography. The production was shot entirely on location at Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts from May to October of '74. It was the very first major motion picture to be shot on the ocean and subsequently had terrible troubles with the production, making it run over budget and over schedule. The art department had continual mechanical problems with the shark as it malfunctioned daily. Originally, Spielberg was not set to direct the film at all. The first director, Dick Richards, was fired after meeting with the producers and the studio executives. In that meeting, he said that his opening shot would be to have a camera come out of the water to show the town. Then a whale, instead of the shark, would come out of the water. The producers said, "We're not trying to make Moby Dick," and they decided that they didn't want to work with somebody who didn't know the difference between a whale and a shark. It's said that Robert Shaw and Richard Dreyfuss couldn't stand each other on the set, and that they argued constantly. Dreyfuss seems to dispute this later on, saying that the two had a few disagreements, but it wasn't anything major. I think it was all probably related to Robert Shaw's drinking. Although he's a really respected actor, his frequent alcohol use created tension on the set. His co-stars described him as a perfect gentleman when he was sober, but all he needed was one drink, and he turned into a competitive, absolute jerk. According to Carl Gottlieb's book, The Jaws Log, Shaw was having a drink between takes when he suddenly announced that he wished that he could quit drinking. To the surprise and horror of the crew, Richard Dreyfuss went over, simply grabbed Shaw's glass, and tossed it into the water. The film opened on June 20th, 1975, and I bet a lot of you were like me and stood in line for that opening. But it was supposed to be released for Christmas of 1974. But because filming ran way over the shooting schedule, its release was pushed back to the summer of the following year. Back in '75, summer was traditionally when the worst movies were dumped into theaters, as Americans typically enjoyed the outdoors instead. But the film was so good that beachgoers actually flocked to see it, and the movie became the highest-grossing film of all time up to that point. It became the first film to gross over $100 million in theatrical rentals. But after nearly 5 decades, there are parts of the film that just haven't stood up to time. But it does deliver a really entertaining thrill and is ideal for summer viewing. But it's also important to acknowledge the elements that didn't age gracefully. The impressive thing about the film is its characterizations, not the horror scenes or the gore that's included in it. It's more the dynamics that happen between these three men who set out to kill this shark that makes the plot tick. This allows it to go for lengthy stretches without any sign of this beast, without it ever becoming dull. But you won't find a female character that's really interesting in the film. The most important one would be Ellen, Chief Brody's wife, but her role isn't a very meaty one. Her main purpose in it is to provide emotional support for Police Chief Brody and to ground him as a family man that has 2 children. Spielberg and his team were forced to rework this script after they were faced with numerous technical problems with this malfunctioning mechanical shark. But this in itself became a blessing in disguise, in that it allows the movie to hint at this menacing shark without having to show it on screen very much. But when the shark does eventually surface, it isn't as frightening as it could be. Many of the death scenes are made all the more terrifying just because the shark is unseen. And looking back on it, the mechanical shark, when he raises his head out of the water, is somewhat underwhelming nowadays. The townsfolk in the film are almost cartoonishly stupid. These island dwellers are frequently depicted as simple-minded. Although the film has several scenes that are just completely nerve-shredding with the tension, like the first scene in the film, Chrissy's death at the beginning. How could it get more terrifying than that? Well, it does. I think the scariest moment is when Quint gives his USS Indianapolis speech. As he and Hooper drink and trade stories about how they got their various scars, Quint tells him and Brody about the time that his ship sunk, and he spent days in the ocean watching his comrades being picked off by hundreds of sharks. The story of this occurrence is completely true, which makes this real-world context of his speech even more powerful. It also stands out because of Robert Shaw's delivery, and the director Spielberg gives him all the time in the world that he needs to tell this horrifying story. It's a true masterpiece in acting and writing. Go back and take a look at this great film. It will send you right back to 1975. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics